For case 4, I want to talk about updating NGL units from gallons to barrels. Most accounting statements that we get, most LOS, NGLs are in gallons, but the industry standard for reporting is in barrels. So one of the first things that I do when I get either an LOS or a database from a client is immediately convert those gallons to barrels. That's just the way my mind works after so many years of looking at these. So I'm going to run through an example here where we change the unit conventions. And as we do this, PHD, if we've got any NGLs already in the system, will go ahead and convert all those gallons to barrels because we've changed our unit convention. And again, this goes pretty fast, so feel free to come back and watch it if you want to take some notes. So in the file project properties under conventions, the imperial is the default setting for PHD, and you notice it's in gallons. So we're going to take that and we're going to copy it. We're going to give it a new name because I can't edit the imperial one. So I'm going to call it PHD, and I'm going to change NGLs to M barrels. I'm going to save it, and then I'm going to go click on that name PHD again, and I'm going to right click to make that the default now. And so that's where it's going to do all your calculations for all your reports. So we're also going to go into the global editor under all cases, under miscellaneous, and we're going to change that unit convention. Right now, everything's set to imperial because that's how it was when we developed this database. We're going to change it to PHD so that all those NGLs are in barrels. And now you're done. And because I have a habit of packing and compiling. So for case 5, let's talk about price models and using the models maintenance application to create larger, more complicated models and to check our work. We are constantly updating price models, whether it's because we're under the gun for an A&D project and we're constantly updating a strip price, or just any random version of things, adding a bank price to a price deck. Some of these price decks can be every month for 50 years, and they get pretty crazy, and I don't want to type all that. So the models maintenance application that PHD put out has a great tool if you don't have it. In version 3, I will say that this is all combined into one and you don't need this anymore. But in version 2, it is a separate little program that you can open and edit all your models, all your expenses. Lots of things can come through here, but I'm going to show you how to do it in just for a price model. So let's build one. So here's the price deck I got from my client. I've got, 30 years of data, and it ranges. And I don't want to mess up any of those decimals or have any typos. So I'm going to export out the prices. This is what my price model looks like in Excel. So I'm going to build a new one. I'm going to call it gas PHD_price. I'm going to leave that model key blank. So that means it's going to add it. But I'm just going to copy all this data over into the right columns. I can look at other models that are already used as examples for where to fill in where I need. The other great thing about this is that when we re-import it in, it automatically checks that until ECL button. So that last line is going to continue on. I do see a lot of clients when they build one in PHD and they have to do line by line, that on that very last line when they built it, they forgot to click until ECL, and that price deck just stops. And so all your economics stop at your very last line. So if you only have a 5-year strip, then your price deck only runs for 5 years. So we pull it back in, we hit close, we go back to PHD, and let's open our models, and we'll open our gas, and right there is PHD price, and it's exactly what we asked for. No typos here. For case 6, I want to make sure that expenses are affecting the ECL properly. Again, ECL limits are one of the key things to adding value to your projects. You want to make sure that you're catching your ECL properly and not letting it run too long or too short. So this one's an easy one. Sometimes we get clients that have sometimes we get databases that have cases that don't have the until ECL checks on their expenses. And so we're going to run through an easy way to kind of look at this, and we'll do an example kind of like what we did before with a lease in our eyes, so you can see the difference before and after. So here we're looking at this individual expense, and notice that button is not checked for affect economic limit. So we're going to run all these, and I think we have them all turned off just for example purposes. So we'll look at that grand total all the way down at the bottom, and your lease expenses are 113 million for this case, and your PV10 was 122.9. I know that went really fast, but let's edit this globally, and let's change that to affect economic limit. You could easily do this here, but if you have tons of operating expenses, variable, fixed, well cost, it's much easier to do this in edit data in Excel. So we're going to do it over here, so I don't have to make sure I catch all the expenses. I'm just going to filter this by affect economic limit as no, and I'm going to change everything that has a value to yes. So that's going to click that button for me. Turn my filter off, and let's re-import all this back in. If you know your database is only running well cost or only running fixed cost, that global editor would have been a great one to do. But sometimes we're not very familiar with the database yet, or we're just trying to take some easy steps for a bank run or something. And so it's much easier for us to look at in Excel because it's all in one place. So here we go. We've compacted, we've compiled, and now we're going to run this one more time to see what that did to our value. So let's look back down at that grand total. Our total lease costs are now 78 million, and our total PV is now 126 million. So we've lost about 35 million in expenses and gained about 4 million in PV. Moving on to case 7, utilizing the projection edit to find outliers in projections. A lot of my clients don't realize that you don't necessarily have to use the ARPS window to go through all your projections. This is really helpful when you just want to look at water expenses, or you just want to look at your GORs, or you just want to look at oil, instead of clicking on that ARPS window after every case and getting to a minor phase, especially for minor phases. This is a great way to kind of see it all in one place and do some sorts and some filters so that you can see everything all at once. So we're going to go through here, and we're going to go to reports and views and select and run. And the very last option is projection edit. So let's do this on all cases, and it's going to give us an Excel spreadsheet, and we can save this to make changes if we want, re-import it into the database using the file import. But here's your default setting. So you can add filters, and you can add sorts, and you can look at just oil or just water, just like I was saying. I like to do this, especially on upsides, when I'm making checks on databases to see, are all my QIs in line with each other? Are all my D-mins in line with each other? So in this case, we looked at really low D-mins. So that case right there goes to a D-min of less than 1%. You can make changes here. You can re-import it, just like I said. Or you can just make notes and go back into the ARPS window and make the changes that you want. But it's an easy way, again, to check for any kind of mistakes or errors or typos that you've got in your database.